Hi. Have you ever seen a job posting that felt made for you? Last year, I got a casting call in my email that felt perfect for me. Brunette, sassy, 18 to 25 years old, no prior experience required. It was filmed 40 minutes away from my house, and the month of filming worked perfectly, so I didn't have to miss a day of class. This was my chance. I ran to my laptop, scrolled through to find my headshot and resume, and clicked on the link, and there it was, in bold font. Must not be over a size 8 dress. That's all it took to eliminate me from this opportunity. I felt embarrassed. I mean, how many Hollywood actresses look like me? You see, for my entire life, I've struggled with my weight. I've been on a diet every year since I was 11 years old. I know, that's not healthy at all, but I was so scared that I couldn't make it in the entertainment industry if I was overweight. I saw magazines with actresses showcasing their slim bodies, telling me how I could lose the weight, that I would feel better at a size 2, that I didn't need to eat. I became fixated on the fact that I could just change myself to fit the Hollywood ideal. But while I was trying to adapt myself for Hollywood, I realized that there are countless people out there with the same dream as me that can't change what prevents them from being on screen. This contrived exclusion created by society, magnified by the entertainment industry, is the reason I am here today. While there are parts of Hollywood that draw me to it, parts that I love, Hollywood is not as glamorous as it might seem. Hollywood has been and is extremely homogenized. And because of this, it's stuck in a vicious cycle of homogeneity. When all creators see are white heterosexual characters that get full stories, then they keep creating white heterosexual characters and leaving minorities to the sidelines, if they are included at all. See, in Hollywood, diversity is an up-and-coming issue. Only in the last few years have we seen representation become an important topic of discussion for the industry. With the introduction of social media, the consumer's voice makes much more of an impact. The dialogue that takes place online can make or break a film or television show. For example, the #OscarsSoWhite movement that began in 2015 was one of the first trending conversations about the institutionalized discrimination that takes place in Hollywood, more specifically in who is rewarded. While the Oscars have been notoriously known for being very white, the social media platform Twitter provided this digital apple box for mass amounts of people to finally call out Hollywood. But even with these movements and hashtags and cancel culture we have now, there's still a long way to go to unravel the systemic epidemic that is underrepresentation in our media. The Hollywood Diversity Report for 2019 calculated the breakdown of representation in scripted broadcast series and found that 63.3% of characters were white, with the lowest demographic being natives with 0.01%. For leads in a television series, 78.5% were white, with 21.5% being minority. That means that 2.2 out of every 10 lead actors were people of color. And for the film industry, the numbers are pretty similar. 80.2% of characters were white, with 19.8% being minority. And just to put it in perspective, the US national average has 39.4% minority. Now, Hollywood has been making some changes, but there's a fundamental difference between showcasing minorities on screen and proper representation. Some examples of 2019 projects that had proper representation given to their minority characters are Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Good Place. Both sitcoms showcase minorities as individuals with agency and rich storylines equal to that of the white characters surrounding them, all without making their minority characters have their status be the fundamental topic of discussion. And for the film industry, we've had some huge strides. Hollywood gave us movies like Black Panther and Crazy Rich Asians, which also gave full plot lines to minority characters while making them the leads. Both were first of its kind and thankfully, blockbuster hits. So why were these projects proper representation unlike other ones? Well, this is due to some other productions utilizing the technique of tokenism, which is casting actors or creating characters to give the appearance of representation. Tokenism takes place when minority characters are banished to the sidelines for a white character storyline, when minorities need saving from a white savior, or when minorities do get screen time but not so much dramatic agency. The other, more apparent style of tokenism is stereotyping. Stereotyping takes place when minorities are boxed into a simple set of descriptions that the audience could hold on to when they interact with minorities in real life, which can cause an individual to hold on to harsh generalizations that may be and typically are completely fabricated. Now, while racial groups face improper representation, tokenism, and stereotyping, homogeneity in Hollywood does not end there. Religious groups are also impacted by the Western entertainment industry. Muslim individuals face extreme misrepresentation in Hollywood. There's the oppressed Muslim woman archetype, the violent Middle Eastern male archetype, and the overall presentation of a threat that the entire group is given, often by the portrayal of the bad guy. Was the last time you saw a Muslim character on screen like this? When is the last time you saw a Muslim character as the lead or represented differently than this? Our world is greatly impacted by our media. According to eMarketer, in 2019, the daily average media consumption was 12 hours. There's no denying the power that media has on us, and it can affect us without us ever being aware. That is why proper representation is so important. Because of media's insistence to portray Muslim individuals as violent terrorists, our society has created an image of these people that is difficult for some to shake off when they interact with minorities in real life. We call this effect an implicit bias. According to the Kirwan Institute for the Study of Race and Ethnicities, publishers of the yearly Implicit Bias Review, implicit bias is defined as attitudes or stereotypes that affect our understanding, actions, and decisions in an unconscious manner. Some people will always see Muslims as one way because the media told them to. But if we can create an alternative portrayal of Muslim individuals on screen, consumers will have a new frame of reference that does not rely on Islamophobic stereotypes and could possibly erase the already embedded vision that once created unnecessary fear and racism. But change doesn't come from one character on one television show. It takes time and authentic writing to help get marginalized groups away from tokenism. Other minorities face this discrimination as well. You see, people tend to think there's been an influx of LGBTQ+ characters on screen. And while that bears some truth, I ask you, can you name 5 transgender actors? Or can you only think of Laverne Cox? Now, she is a phenomenal actress and an amazing voice for the transgender community, but having her be the sole representation of a large sector of diverse people is akin to the tokenism I spoke of earlier. And if she is your only representation for an entire transgender community, then you're getting an improper picture of what different trans individuals may look like. Yes, it is true. There have been more LGBTQ+ characters getting showcased in film and television, but a majority of those characters are white gay men. According to GLAAD's annual report on LGBTQ inclusion, out of the 6.4% of LGBTQ characters, 47% are gay men, 26% are lesbian, or 26% are bisexuals, 24% are lesbian, and 5% are trans. In case you're wondering, that 5% equates to 1 trans woman, 2 trans men, and 1 non-binary individual in all broadcast series for the 2017 to 2018 season. How can that be proper representation when those 4 individuals are responsible for representing the entirety of the transgender community? And prior to recent years, trans characters weren't even authentically portrayed by trans actors. Instead, cisgendered actresses and actors like Hilary Swank and Jared Leto won awards for being representation for the community. Similarly, people with disabilities are often portrayed by able-bodied individuals. The GLAAD report found that 16 characters, that's 1.8%, had a disability. That is less than 1/6 of the percentage of what people with disabilities make up in our real life. And now think about the fact that part of that 1.8% is portrayed by people who don't even have a disability. I know. Why does it matter? They're still getting represented in our media. Who cares if the actor doesn't really have a disability or is gay or is Asian? And yeah, that might be difficult to understand when you are the majority. But how about we look at it this way? Imagine someone filming a movie about your life, but they don't cast you as the lead. They don't even talk to you about the script. They just grab a couple notes and cast someone who is nothing like you. You sit down to see this film, and it's not exactly wrong, but it's not exactly right. Your stories, your life is not how it actually is, and no one wants to listen to you argue because the lead is super famous and the movie's making a lot of money. That feeling is the closest feeling I can give you to the intense disappointment it is for minorities. Friends of mine who now work in LA tell me how difficult it is to never see yourself on screen and how hard it is to keep the love of Hollywood burning when others who look like you aren't getting the same opportunities as a white individual surrounding them. And you know, people might wonder if this change in media will have any actual impact. Will more diversity on screen lead to any cultural changes in our society? Will we see people be more understanding of others who are not like them? And I get that, I truthfully do. You know, some production companies might even feel like it's taking a risk to stray from the pre-established white Hollywood that makes them guarantee profit. And to that I say, Parasite. Parasite, a Korean film in Korean, directed by and starring Korean individuals, took home 4 Oscars just last month. So where is the real hurt in having more diversity? What is wrong with advocating for others to be showcased on something that is so influential in our society in a way that does not rely on cultural appropriation? We don't have to steal from other cultures and hide behind a curtain of diversity. No, we can give people the chance to authentically create art that is representative of their story without this idyllic saturation it's had before. We've proved it can work. You know, recently, I discovered a show with a plus-size woman as the lead. The show is Shrill and stars Aidy Bryant as the main character. Her weight is never the joke. In fact, there's an entire episode dedicated to body positivity and empowerment. Women of all shapes and sizes gather at a pool party in swimsuits, showcasing their curves and being proud of their bodies. They aren't hiding them for the comfort of others. No, they're simply existing, and their appearance is not something to be critiqued or criticized. You know, for the first time in my life, I got to see a little bit of myself on screen and have hope. For the first time in my life, I got to see a plus-size woman doing things that other women have been doing for years in Hollywood. They treated her as beautiful. They showed a different side to her that for so long, the Hollywood narrative wasn't willing to show. You know, even with all the weight issues and low confidence that I've had, show provided me with the belief that Hollywood was finally beginning to have realistic expectations for me and others in similar situations. People still might want to change themselves to fit the problematic Hollywood ideal, as I had once done, but I've realized it's so much more important for people to see themselves as acknowledged individuals, instead of through this lens of heightened class and cultural representation. I want people who have this burning passion like I do to feel that joy of seeing their dreams play out on screen. But change won't happen overnight. However, if we can recognize how impactful our media is, notice the generalizations we hold on to from it, there's hope for our next generations to live in a world that is less divisive and more inclusive for all. Thank you.